We'll go to 1600 or 16,000. Fuck it. So here we are. This is gonna look like shit. I love it. Very castration core. Where do I even begin? I love the first movie. I love castration. The fear of having no one to hold at the end of the world. That, as like a concept, sits in my brain. In here. Scares me every day. Every day. But I watched it at a time where I was already pretty comfortable with myself. And, you know, I didn't need the 101 on gender. So, like, Incel Superman is good and interesting and I love it, but it wasn't the part I cared most about. And Traps is complicated, but as the director herself said, like, Traps is the same story, if Traps is the first one, Traps and the fear of having no one to hold at the end of the world, they are the same story, essentially. They are, like, regressive people who never really deal with their problems, who follow structures which ultimately break down their relationships because they can't live up to both, like, the expectations around them, but also, like, their self-expectations. Like, a lot of it has to do with, like, what they actually want for themselves and being able to admit to it, and the way the world actually interacts with that. There is a lot of, like, how far are you willing to go to try to get the thing that you want, and will that ultimately harm you if you, like, push yourself too far? And so as far as, like, a theme is concerned, Castration 2, or Part 3, Polygon Heart Motor, definitely still is talking about that. But Polygon Heart Motor is scathing. The first movie is described as a movie full of love. I agree. I heard somebody say that. I don't know where I saw this post. It was definitely like a Twitter or something. I just want to make sure it's on. I saw a Twitter post which was like, Castration the Movie Part 2 is a snuff film. And it is. So I guess I can go through it a little bit. If you're watching this, I assume you watched the movie. So spoilers. I don't remember everybody's names. I don't remember all the characters' names. This is not the thing I pick up on. I do believe the main character, Circle, played by Lexi Walton. I am not going to go through every plot point. Again, you need to watch the fucking movie, but we're gonna talk about certain things. So we start off at a point where Circle is, like, in the cult. We don't know where she's come from. She's a part of it. Everybody seems really disparate. It doesn't really make sense who's in charge. Like, Eclipse is separated a little bit out from the rest of the group as, like, a leader figure, but not really. And we're kind of, it's like very nebulous. Like, the question comes up, like, who's paying for this? I think it's Hazel has the question about, like, what am I even doing here? But she's, like, a literal terrorist running away from things. You have the girl who is, like, a former, I don't know if she did multi-level marketing or if she was just in, like, corporate, like, private industry, but she's insane in her own way. Hazel, who is very clearly, like, looking for family and who is brought in. You have the cat, who we can get into. Not yet. Thank you. Oh, hi, red lights. These are cute. These are cute. I kind of like what this is doing, actually. We're just gonna let this go. You have the cat. Yeah, so you have this whole fucking fucked up family. You have the girl who, like the yoga girl who's like kind of a stereotypical cult girl. You have the FBI girl who's cis, which is very, very funny. I like that. That's a good joke. It's really fucking good. And it's a good setup. And the idea is that all of these women have been taken in and they are looking for something. They're looking for some kind of community. They're looking for something that is outside of the normal world because their existence in life, in participating in the world as it exists, has failed them somehow. Okay. We start there. And then we very quickly move into the territory of, oh, it's a cult. This is a cult. If you didn't get that as a cult immediately with the, like, big orgy scene at the beginning and all the drugs and stuff, okay, fine. Sure. Maybe you just weren't looking for it. It's a cult. And we see some of them wavering. We see that they're, like, talking to the AI, which is a whole thing. We can get into what they're actually doing. If somebody actually wants to, you can have a conversation with me about it. I don't have thoughts on it, though. So the cult reminds me of TTT, basically, like, or TTTT. Like, it reminds me of the shit I read off that. Like, they're reading from that forum. It reminds me of the forum shit. We have forum posts in the same way we have forum posts from Traps and from The Fear of Not Being Held at the End of the World, or Having No One to Hold at the End of the World. These are, like, common motifs that show up. But, like, they resemble, like, the Final Fantasy house. Or, like, any other cult. They are so lost and separated from each other and, like, disenfranchised from the people that they want to be or from the people who care about them that they don't know anything else. Okay, start there. Circle is clearly not buying in. She is not agreeing with it. There's also a dynamic that is very important going on about the way these people interact with each other, how it's like both sexual and emotional, and like they eat together but they're only eating the hot dogs and shit. It's like cult 101 shit. You emotionally bind people to a thing and then you exploit them. Oh, okay. However, this is really interesting when we see what happens later. Circle leaves, runs away from a really awkward, like, hazing ritual that's going on, and goes to see Vicky. The Vicky scene is really interesting to me. Vicky seems to be a friend, maybe an ex-girlfriend. There is tension there. There is very clear tension. Vicky's a fuckboy. But, so on first viewing, Vicky is, like, sees Circle, is excited, but then is kind of trying to hit, right? And I understand how that's, like, very, very, very off-putting. At the same time, there is a level of, like, camaraderie between them where Vicky knows Circle. I may have misunderstood this part, but there seems to be a point where Vicky calls Circle Justine, which I take as the name that Circle used when she came to Bushwick initially, and before she took on Circle, which is an object, a symbol. Okay. Cool. Vicky, at that point in the movie, is only the second thing, or the second relationship Circle has actually, like, engaged with in front of us. So we don't know what the situation is. But Circle kind of throws in her face that, like, she's not gonna fuck her. Okay, cool. So Circle is not about that. Vicky is, like, directly hurt by this, but is also, like, she is trying to fuck. That is happening. There is a dynamic of that happening here. But Vicky lets her leave. Vicky is a person who is offering her, like, comfort and a place to like, sit and get her bearings and eat. She wants to give her food. Like, there's a level of care there that is genuine, okay? And Circle's character very consistently always talks about how she wants to run away from things. She gets bored. We get to the party. At the party, she meets Keller. And Keller is a scathing review of a certain kind of cis woman. And the way that Keller basically uses like turf talking points ignorantly and softly like manipulates Circle into the thing that she wants ultimately is another form of the same sort of like liminal question that is being asked throughout the whole movie, which in a lot of ways is like presented to us by Hazel outside on the steps after the night where Keller and Circle hang out, and Circle has been confronted by multiple instances of like questions about herself. Natty and Keller both sort of point towards the idea that Circle does not like appropriate the same amount of womanhood as them, which is a problem I see all the fucking time, and is something that is so hard to explain to cis people, especially like cis women, because it's a thing that, I mean, it's hard to explain to anyone. It's hard to explain to trans people sometimes, where femininity is a granted, protected status. And to be fair, and they don't really get into this in the movie, it's a granted, protected status that is actually only really given to white women. But we don't have to talk about that right now. We don't have to talk about that right now. There is plenty of good writing about how minority women are not granted the same level of class as white women, and that's because in America, class is structured as white men, white women as like a subclass, and then however any other class structure is created, it is ultimately superseded by that. So it doesn't matter as far as like those things are concerned. And then there's a dialectic going on between how culture trickles down as aspirational based on like white supremacy. We don't need to get into that. This is a critique of like a very specific kind of person. Okay. Circle herself has had multiple instances during the night and of like trepidation on both sides. Sort of going with the idea of being a boy, mostly because it is simple and easy, because someone is accepting of them, but that is also indicative of the fact that Circle is a follower. Circle came to New York through Vicky, did not know what she wanted. It seems like Vicky was in love with her, frankly. As my read, I may have to rewatch like The Party again, but like, yeah, she seems to genuinely be in love with this girl, just like she's horny about it. Sorry. It happens. Whatever. Circle dips, gets bored. But then there's also these other like implications there where it's like Circle talks about being bored when it comes to the cult, and that's why she wants to leave. It doesn't have anything to do with like her overall ideological trepidations of it. It actually has more to do with like she wants a cheeseburger, right? It's very personal. It's very like basal. Fine, that's an okay reason to leave a cult. You should leave a cult for whatever reason. However, this also kind of leads her to not know herself. And then she goes back to the cult thinking like, oh, I'll get my stuff. She has nothing there. There's no reason for her to go back. She's out. She could just leave, but she doesn't. I assume because she's a follower. She's indoctrinated. She believes she has to go there. She owes something to these people. She doesn't. When they're outside, Hazel kind of says it, where found family is a family And in some ways, like, that comes with the fucked up parts of it. You don't just get to erase the fucked up parts of family because you found family. I think that's pretty poignant. And it's kind of what the movie is about. It's kind of about how you choose your family, the things you choose to tolerate in other people, the things that you look at other people for, and you wonder, like, who you want to be and who you want to spend your time around. Like, what kind of experiences do you want? Circle, the progression of Circle's arc is that Circle comes to a place where she doesn't know what she's doing. She feels taken advantage of. We don't know if Vicky ever did. She's pretty aggressive. But it does seem like maybe there was either something there or it just wasn't, it didn't happen, right? She leaves. She goes to a cult. The cult is like an openly sexual polycule that worships an AI and a YouTuber. That goes bad eventually. And then she leaves and she is rescued by cis girl bio pussy, as Hazel puts it, who won't save her. And she's right. Because what happens? After the hazing ritual, after the literal torture, after like ultimately being threatened for her life, like placed in a situation where maybe she could have killed herself. We don't know if the gun's loaded. We never find out. We just know that it's like the worst humiliation I've ever seen anybody go through on film. It's horrifying. She then leaves with the only person that she trusts because this person came to save her. And that person fundamentally betrays her spirit, cutting her hair and changing who she is. You watch the death of a woman on screen. You watch it as it happens, and it breaks my fucking heart. You watch Keller talk about these ideas and not get it, where she's so ignorant, where she's like, I was non-binary for 4 years, and when I was non-binary, these things were like this, so they must be like this for you. But the way she talks about them are so non-insightful. They are so lacking in actual experience, or like not holding the empathy of the other person. She says to Circle, I am like every time that somebody tried to like buzz my head when I was in college, I would have to close my eyes to get through it. I guess that's how I knew I wasn't really about it. And then what happens after like Circle loses the first half of her hair, she literally starts crying. And what does Keller do? She just keeps going. Because Keller doesn't care. Keller only cares about satisfying her own autoerotic, like, ideal, which is her as a beautiful woman with a man. And you see that at the end of the movie. She has dropped all facade of being non-binary. She doesn't wear baggy clothes anymore. She shows off how she looks as a femme with her man. And she's proud of her man. And the disconnect there is insane. It's a fucking snuff film. It made me cry, and I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about this girl who never knew her, though. I can't stop thinking about the people who offered her space and how they all kind of take advantage of her. Now that makes it harder for her to trust people. But then I wonder about, like, is that all there is? I feel like she's also cagey. She's a follower. She's a person who doesn't know how to trust people. She does not know how to like tell her own emotions apart from like things that would hurt her, basically. And I don't know how to feel about that. Because like it's tragic. It's a tragic fucking movie. It's a tragic movie about a girl who has like these moments where maybe she could choose better, but better isn't like... What if better is not good enough? Like, what if the chances you take are just the wrong ones? Funny thing is, I don't think the movie's about that. I think the movie in a lot of ways is about like the things I said before. It's not about like, it's about like dealing with the hurt that happens. It's about like trying to decipher the ways in which people exist in each other's lives and how you coexist and how we survive together. How we accept each other not being perfect. I think trans women spend a lot of time worrying about there's a lot of inter-community drama that will happen. People are expected to be perfect. Reconciliation is not a real thing. People don't know how to deal with that. I think that's relevant. I think learning to live with people who are imperfect is a big theme in the movie. But I also think it's like learning to live with yourself and love yourself despite your imperfections. Because otherwise somebody else will try to change you, and they'll try to change you in ways that you're not okay with. And you need to recognize when people have issues or when people are actually manipulating you, and the difference between them. I could probably say more, but I don't want to make a 5-hour YouTube video about a 5-hour movie.